Hi, I'm Cliff, and this is my garage. And today, I'm going to show you how to change your car's battery without screwing up all the electronics. Hey, welcome back to the garage. And if this is your first time joining me, thanks for dropping by. So, my 2006 Porsche Cayman S needs a new battery. And I know from experience, if I just swap out the battery, it's going to cause problems. A lot of modern cars, if you completely remove all power to the system, well, it kind of loses its mind. For instance, I had the Cayman's battery die completely because of a screw up that I did. And when I got the car back up and running, it had forgotten its steering calibration and it was throwing a couple of other errors that had now caused the check engine light to come on. Yeah, and of course, it had also forgotten all its radio station presets and just various annoyances like that. As another example, on my 2007 Hummer H3X, I changed out the battery one time, and when I got done, it wouldn't start. Now, I didn't know about this problem then. This was a few years ago, and I believe what I did was I activated some kind of immobilizer or anti-theft device. I ended up having to spend like $250 to have the car towed to a mechanic, get them to reset whatever had gone wrong, and then I had to go get the car. Now, all of these problems are fixable, most of them pretty easily if you've got the right tools or if you pay a mechanic to fix it for you. But today, I'm going to show you a little trick that lets you swap out the battery and not lose any of your settings or cause any of these problems to your car's electronics. So the trick to making sure your car doesn't lose its mind when you remove the power is that you make sure you never actually remove the power. And the way you do this is by using a battery tender. Now, this is a Black & Decker one, and I'll give you a link to it in the description below the video. I really like this one. It's well made, it works well, but just about any battery tender will work as long as it puts out enough amperage to keep the system alive. Generally, these battery tenders come with a generic plug on the end that you can put various adapters onto. For instance, there's an adapter with rings that hooks directly to the battery, or you can get one that has the little classic kind of battery clamps to clamp it directly to the terminals. But what I want to use is I want to use the one that has a cigarette lighter or a power socket adapter. You just slide this on, and now you can use the battery tender to feed power directly into your power outlet. And this will keep the system alive while you swap out the battery. Now, one thing you need to make sure of is that your car leaves the power socket alive when it's turned off. And the easy way to check that is to get, well, at least I use this little USB charger adapter that has an LED built in. And so I take and I stick it into the power outlet, and it'll glow blue. And then I turn the car off and let it sit for a while, because the car may not turn off the power socket right away. It may, after 5 or 10 minutes, turn it off. Then after a half an hour or so, I'll go back and make sure that this is still glowing and I know that I've got a good socket. Now, I've never had a car that turned off all the power sockets. It may turn off 1 or 2 of them or whatever, but there was always one that it left on constantly in order to feed something like a dash camera or something. But if you found that your car turned off all its power sockets, I think you'd be able to just leave the ignition on, and that way it would leave the socket on while you're doing this. My only concern would be to make sure that you've got a battery tender that provides enough power to keep the whole car alive while you're doing the battery swap. I verified the Cayman center console outlet stays alive when the key is off, so we're going to plug the battery tender into here. Make sure we're well seated, and we're set to go. Now, one thing about these batteries is this thing is heavy. I mean, yeah, that one's heavy too. And I have a bad back, so I have to be very careful about lifting things that are in such an awkward position, way back here in the back of the front trunk area. Even if I come over here to the side, this is a very awkward lift for me. So what I did was I used my Harbor Freight hydraulic cart. I've told you guys before, this is one of the best things I've ever bought. I mean, this has been a great tool. I do so much with it. And I took and laid a 2x6 here on it, and I put a C-clamp over here on the back end to hold it, and now it'll cantilever out there. This thing is pretty heavy, and I can put the battery all the way on the end out there and use the cart to like deliver it or pick it out first and deliver the new one to the back. So let's get busy with that. What's nice about the Cayman is that I can just kind of stand here with my feet in the front trunk and sit on the edge of the fender, and it's really fairly comfortable. I'm going to loosen the battery terminals. And do check your terminals. Make sure they're clean, and if necessary, use a terminal cleaning tool. And here we go. Disconnect battery. Ooh. Got a bit of a spark there because the system is live. Got to be careful of that. But at least that does tell me that my battery tender has got power to the system. Figure out some way here to, there we go. Nice, safe plastic covered spot to kind of tuck the battery cable up in there. Okay, there's some kind of a tube here. I presume that's sort of a venting tube. I never really noticed it before. So hopefully the new battery, yeah, and yes, I see it does. The new battery has the appropriate spot to put that tube back in. Tuck that back up in there also. And now I got to figure out what holds the battery in place. Ah, right there. There's a clamp. Remove that bolt. That clamp will move out of the way. We can pick this thing up. Slides kind of sideways to disconnect the other side. Oh Lord, that's heavy. Oh. Okay. Get this one out of here, get the other one back in. Slide that into position. Seem to be catching right. Take a better look at this. Ah, don't wait. Have it in correctly. There, now it's all the way in. And it slides into the lock. Terminals. So start with that strange little tube. Put that in, and positive terminal back on. Negative terminal back on, and tighten the nuts down. There we go. All done. Okay, worked perfectly. Car started up just fine. No strange error codes, no things like, the steering calibration problems. Even my radio presets were still there. So yeah, it's like the power had never been turned off because, of course, it hadn't been turned off. So check out this technique. I think it'll save some of you a lot of headaches with changing your battery out. Now, if you didn't see my last video, the Cayman was cranking very, very slowly. And instead of taking it to mechanic or doing some complicated diagnostic process, I showed you how to diagnose whether it was the battery, the alternator, or the starter using nothing more than a set of jumper cables and a multimeter. And if you're interested in that, I'll put a link right over there somewhere, and it'll be in the end cards at the end of the video, so you can take a look at that. As always, thank you to everyone for watching, liking, and sharing my videos. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, go ahead and do that. It only takes a second and it's one little click. And while you're at it, go click on that little bell icon. That turns on notifications just for this channel, and that way YouTube will let you know every time that I post new content from here in Cliff's Garage. I'll see you next time.